Ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs, kings and queens in the marketplace. Today, I want to speak to your spirit, your mind, and your mission. Because if you're going to make million-dollar moves, if you're going to walk in divine purpose and build generational wealth, you've got to learn how to be calm. Yeah, I know. The storm is raging, the bills are stacking, the business isn't booming yet. But hear me when I say this. Peace isn't the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of God in your process. Let me give you 4 truths that will anchor your soul and your strategy when chaos tries to creep in. People confuse calm for weakness. They think if you're not shouting, you're not strong. If you're not reacting, you're not paying attention. If you're not anxious, you're not serious. But let me tell you something. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who knows exactly who they are, exactly where they're going, and they don't need to prove it to anybody. That's calm. And that kind of calm, it's not weakness, it's power under control. See, real power doesn't need to panic. Panic is for people who don't have a plan. Panic is for people who think everything rests on their shoulders. But when you understand who you are, when you know that you're not just hustling for a check, you're building from a calling, then you don't get rattled when circumstances. Let me take you back to a story. You might remember it. It's in Mark chapter 4. Jesus and the disciples are in a boat crossing over to the other side. Suddenly, a furious storm comes. Waves are crashing, wind is howling, water's filling the boat. And where's Jesus? Asleep on a cushion. Calm. Now watch this. The disciples, grown men, fishermen, men who'd seen storms before, they're losing their minds. Master, don't you care if we perish? But Jesus wakes up, stands up, and speaks up. Peace, be still. And immediately the wind dies down, and there is a great calm. Now catch this. The storm didn't wake Jesus. The storm didn't shake him, but the fear of his followers did. And when he rebukes the wind and the waves, he doesn't just silence nature, he corrects their fear. He says, why are you so afraid? How is it that you have no faith? Let me break it down. Jesus wasn't calm because the storm was small. He was calm because his purpose was bigger. He wasn't weak. He was connected to a greater source. That calm wasn't laziness. That calm wasn't indifference. That calm was alignment with God's authority. Now let me talk to you, the entrepreneur, the visionary, the leader, the dreamer. When stuff hits the fan, when your ad account gets shut down, when your biggest client cancels, when the launch flops, when your spouse doesn't understand what you're building, do you panic or do you posture yourself in peace? Because here's the truth. Calm is a weapon. It disarms chaos. It silences confusion. It separates the amateurs from the professionals. Calm is what lets you think when everyone else is reacting. Calm is what gives you clarity when fear tries to flood your mind. Have you ever seen someone in a crisis, the person who isn't screaming, who isn't running around, who's just steady? People start to look to that person. They say, what do we do? Why? Because calm is magnetic. Calm breeds confidence. And in business, calm closes deals. Let me tell you, people don't buy your product, they buy your energy, they buy your confidence. If you're anxious about your offer, they'll sense it. If you sound desperate for the sale, they'll back away. But if you are calm in your pricing, calm in your positioning, calm in your pitch, people say they know something I don't, I trust them. That's when the money moves. Calm tells the enemy, I see you coming, but I'm not moved. Calm says, I've got a word, I've got a mission, and I'm not abandoning it just because the wind's changed. Calm is when the bank account says $17.00, and you say, that's not where I stop, that's where I start. Calm is when people laugh at your dream, and you smile and say, watch what God does with this. Listen, anxiety is loud, doubt is loud, but peace whispers, and yet somehow it speaks louder than everything else in the room. That's why Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. So the next time somebody says, why are you so calm? Don't apologize. Don't shrink. Don't second guess. Just say, because I'm not building from pressure, I'm building from promise. I don't need to rush because I know what's mine won't miss me. I don't need to prove anything because I've already been approved. But if you want to master the marketplace, master your inner world first. Build your business from peace. Build your team from peace. Build your life from peace. Calm is not the absence of motion. It's motion with meaning. It's action with alignment. Don't let this world trick you into thinking calm is passive. Calm is how kings move. Calm is how queens lead. Calm is how legacy is built. Because calm is a weapon. Let me tell you something that most people miss. The breakthrough you're praying for, the next $1 million idea you're chasing, the strategy that will multiply your income, it's already inside you. The problem is you're too distracted, too busy, too anxious to hear it. You're moving fast, you're reacting to everything, and your mind is so loud, you can't even recognize when inspiration knocks on the door. That's why you have to be calm, because calm clarifies your creativity. See, creativity is a divine gift. You are made in the image of the Creator. That means you don't just produce, you create. You don't just follow a script, you write one. But to access that divine ability, you have to be still enough to receive it. God doesn't shout over your noise. He whispers. And if you're not calm, you'll miss what he's saying. Let me ask you something. When do you get your best ideas? It's not when you're rushing through emails. It's not when your phone is buzzing with 5 conversations. It's not when you're doubting yourself, comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel on Instagram. No, your best ideas come in the shower, on a walk, sitting in silence. They come when your mind is finally quiet enough to receive, not just react. That's because creativity doesn't live in chaos. Creativity breathes in space. It thrives in silence. It needs room to stretch. But most of us never give it that room because we're too busy trying to control everything. We're trying to make it happen through force instead of flow. Let me show you something from Scripture. In 1 Kings 19, the prophet Elijah is on the run, burned out, hiding in a cave, and God says, "Come out because I'm about to pass by." And then what happens? A powerful wind tears through the mountains, but God's not in the wind. Then an earthquake shakes the ground, but he's not in the earthquake. Then comes a fire, but still he's not in the fire. After all that, there's a still small voice. And that's where God was. Let that sink in. The clarity you're looking for isn't in the noise, it's in the stillness. That's why the enemy of your creativity is not competition. It's not your lack of followers. It's not your lack of resources. The enemy of your creativity is clutter, mental clutter, emotional clutter, schedule clutter. And when your mind is cluttered, your gift is clouded. Now, if you're in business, listen close, creativity isn't just for artists. Creativity is your competitive advantage. The business that comes up with the most compelling offer, the clearest message, the most elegant system wins. And those ideas don't come from stress. They don't come from 16-hour grind sessions fueled by insecurity. They come when you align, not when you force. Some of y'all are trying to scale your business, but you're skipping over the most important strategy session of your life, silence. You're looking for solutions externally that have already been downloaded internally, but they're buried under doubt, distraction, and noise. You don't need more hustle. You need more holy stillness. And you know why calm is so powerful? Because calm creates space, and space is where creativity walks in and sits down. When you're calm, your mind stops racing, your soul stops striving, and suddenly you can hear what you couldn't hear before. You connect dots that didn't seem to fit. You see opportunities in what used to look like obstacles. You write the sales page in 20 minutes that would have taken 3 hours if you were frantic. And that's not a productivity hack. That's divine flow. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world start their day with silence, meditation, prayer, journaling, not because it's trendy, but because it's essential. They've learned that clarity is their superpower, and clarity only comes through calm. They understand that their ability to lead others begins with their ability to lead their own mind. If you're not calm, your creativity is compromised. You'll fall into copying other people's ideas instead of creating from your own well. You'll look for templates instead of trusting your vision. You'll make noise instead of making impact. So what do? You slow down, you unplug, you get quiet on purpose. You sit before God, not with a request, but with a readiness. You say, Lord, I'm here to receive. My hands are open. My mind is still. Speak to me. And you'll be amazed what happens. Ideas start to flow. Solutions appear. A phrase hits your spirit and becomes the foundation of your next launch. A moment of peace reveals the next product, the next pivot, the next person you need to hire. Not from striving, but from stillness. You don't need to force what's already been gifted to you. You just need to create the space to unlock it. So remember, chaos clouds creativity, but calm clears the channel. Calm clarifies your creativity. And when you're clear, you're unstoppable. You have to understand something powerful about calm. It's not just emotional stillness. It's not just mental quiet. Calm is spiritual alignment. And when you walk in calm, you don't just feel better, you operate differently. Why? Because calm connects you to covenant. And covenant isn't a casual agreement. It's not a contract you sign and forget. Covenant is divine commitment, a promise from God that is sealed in heaven and released on earth. But to access it, you've got to be positioned properly. You've got to be calm. Most people don't understand covenant, which is why they settle for chaos. They don't know the kind of access, the kind of authority, the kind of inheritance they have in Christ. So they live like spiritual beggars when God already called them kingdom builders. But calm is the posture that says, I don't need to chase what's already mine. Calm says, God has already gone before me. My job is to follow in faith, not run in fear. So let me take you to Isaiah 30:15. This will shift your mindset. It says, in returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. But the last line is sobering. But you would not. God was saying, I gave you the formula. I gave you the path. You just didn't want to receive it. Why? Because we've been conditioned to think movement equals momentum. We think if we're not doing 50 things at once, we're falling behind. But calm isn't inactivity, it's intentionality. Calm is the evidence that you believe the covenant. Panic is the evidence that you've forgotten it. See, God doesn't respond to anxiety. He responds to faith. And calm is faith's body language. Calm says, even though I can't see it, I trust it's coming. Calm says, even though the client backed out, I believe the contract I'm supposed to have is already written in heaven. Calm is a covenant connector. It keeps you aligned with the truth of what God already said, rather than being swept up in what circumstances are saying. Think about Abraham. God made a covenant with him that through him nations would be born. Legacy, wealth, land, family, destiny. But for years he saw nothing. Decades passed. He and Sarah were old. Too old for babies, too old for building nations. And yet, Romans 4:20 says he staggered not at the promise of God through unbelief, but was strong in faith, giving glory to God. How do you live like that unless you've got a covenant consciousness? How do you keep building when the world says stop? How do you keep believing when your body says quit? You stay calm, because calm keeps you connected. In business, the people who win big are not always the smartest or fastest. They're the most rooted in values, rooted in purpose, rooted in something bigger than profit. And when you're rooted in covenant, you don't crumble when the pressure comes. You stay grounded. And grounded people, they build empires. Let me bring it to your business right now. If you really believe that God gave you the vision, then stop acting like he can't fund it. Stop acting like it's all on your shoulders. That's not covenant. That's control. And control is counterfeit peace. It looks like leadership, but it's really fear in disguise. Covenant says, God, I surrender the results. I will do what you call me to do. I'll move in excellence. I'll sell. I'll serve. I'll show up, but the increase is on you. Psalm 127:1 says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. That doesn't mean don't build. It means build from rest, not from resistance. Calm's powerful because it places you back into divine rhythm. And when you're in rhythm with heaven, resources flow, people are drawn to you, clarity comes, ideas sharpen, timing aligns, not because you forced it, but because you flowed with it. That's covenant at work. Even in your relationships, your parenting, your health, covenant changes how you show up. When you're calm, you're not yelling out of fear. You're leading from assurance. You're not making desperate decisions. You're making destiny decisions. Calm gives you space to think, to hear from God, to pause and ask, what would covenant do in this moment? Covenant doesn't react. Covenant moves with certainty. Let me tell you, storms are going to come, delays will happen, people will walk away. That's part of the journey. But you're calm in the storm doesn't mean you're in denial. It means you're in covenant. You know who you're walking with. You know what's backing you. You know your source. You don't need to scream when you know you've got a sword in your hand. You don't need to panic when you're partnered with a promise. That's why the calm ones confuse people. They think you're crazy. They say, how are you not worried right now? And your answer is simple, because I've got a covenant. And covenant covers me. So today, if your mind is spinning, if your heart is heavy, if the business looks uncertain, I want to remind you, calm is not weakness. Calm is worship. Calm is saying, God, you are still in control, and because you're not panicking, neither am I. Stay calm, stay connected, stay in covenant. Everything you've been promised is already on the way. Most people are chasing growth the wrong way. They're running fast, grinding hard, staying busy. And let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with action. There's nothing wrong with ambition. But what you have to understand is this: the most explosive growth doesn't come from anxiety. It comes from alignment. It comes from calm, because calm is the soil for massive growth. You want to build something big, something that lasts, something that multiplies beyond you? Then stop trying to grow from chaos. Growth that comes from hustle alone is shallow. It might shoot up quick, but it can't stay up. Why? Because it has no root. And if it has no root, it has no fruit. Calm is what lets your roots go deep. Calm is what makes room for you to actually hear God, to discern the right direction, to plant the right seed in the right season. That's the soil where supernatural growth happens, not from panic, not from pressure, but from peace. Let's go to the word for this. Psalm 1 says, blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. And watch this part. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prospers. Did you catch that? Planted, positioned, rooted, not running all over the place, not scrambling to chase every trend, planted. And from that calm, consistent position, growth. Not just any growth, but fruit in season. The kind of growth that's sustainable, the kind that lasts. Now, let me talk to the entrepreneurs, the leaders, the visionaries, the people trying to build empires, ministries, movements, legacies. If your internal world is chaotic, don't be surprised when your results are too. If your spirit is constantly shaken, your strategy will be scattered. But when you are calm, not lazy, not passive, but calm, you become fertile ground for God to do something extraordinary through you. See, calm isn't the absence of movement. Calm is the presence of maturity. It means I'm not moved by every problem. I don't change direction every time the numbers dip. I don't shrink when critics show up. I'm steady. I'm focused. I'm dialed in. Why? Because I know my assignment, and I know the one who gave it to me. That's how you grow. Let's get practical. Think about nature. A seed doesn't grow because the soil is loud. It grows because the soil is stable. It grows in darkness. It grows in pressure, but only when it's placed in the right environment. You can scream at a seed all day, it won't grow faster. But you give it calm, nutrient-rich soil, you give it what it needs to root, and it'll break through the ground when the time is right. Some of you are frustrated because you're not seeing fruit yet. You're shouting at the seed. You're digging it up, checking to see if it's working. But that's not faith, that's fear. And fear contaminates the soil. You've got to let calm cover your process. Calm says, I trust the timing. Calm says, just because I don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Calm says, growth is happening in me before it ever shows through me. You can't microwave massive growth, but you can position yourself for it, and that starts with cultivating calm. Let me tell you what calm creates. Clarity. When you're calm, you can see what others miss. You don't just work harder, you work smarter. You hear ideas others are too busy to hear. Calm gives you access to revelation. Capacity. When you're calm, you don't burn out. You can handle more. You can lead more. You can carry weight because your spirit isn't frantic. Calm makes room for greater responsibility. Creativity, calm, opens the floodgates of divine inspiration. The next big move for your business, your ministry, your brand, it won't come from burnout. It'll come when you get quiet and lean in. Consistency. Calm makes you steady. And let me tell you, steady people win, not because they sprint the fastest, but because they don't stop. Calm gives you endurance. Don't let the world rush you out of the rhythm God gave you. Don't let pressure push you out of peace. Everything in the culture is telling you to hustle harder, move faster, scale bigger, but God's system is different. His growth starts inside, in the quiet places, in the stillness, in the calm. Jesus said in John 15:5, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Not if you panic, not if you perform, if you remain. That's calm, that's trust, that's divine positioning. So if you want to experience massive growth, stop chasing noise. Start cultivating stillness. Let calm become your soil. Build your business in peace. Make your decisions in peace. Lead your people from peace. Because real growth, the kind that transforms lives and outlives you, doesn't grow in anxiety. It grows in calm. So here's your charge today. Be calm. Be calm in the boardroom. Be calm when the bank account says $47.36. Be calm when the team flakes. Be calm when the plan pivots. And be calm because your destiny demands it. And if you can master calm and chaos, you'll master the marketplace. Let's go build wealth. Let's go change lives. Let's go be calm.